Hey there, West of the World. It is Tuesday, November 17th, and this review video will sort of focus in on the questions that surround the significance of the Great War. And in some ways I'm going to take material that comes from last Thursday's discussion, from this morning's discussion, and also things that we'll be talking about on Thursday to try to help us remember or understand why the Great War matters so much. So what we have tried to establish, or why we have used this as a kind of breaking point in this class, is that really World War I represents the sort of rupture from the mindset of 19th century Western Europe into the realities, perhaps, of the 20th century. So when we think about what has come before, we understand the 19th century to be, generally speaking, a period of time that is characterized by supreme Western confidence, belief in progress, by a steady growth of Western power in any variety of different measures. And so, as expressed in industrialization and the transformations of governments and new imperialism, this had been a very sort of dynamic time, and that more than anything, people had walked away from the 19th century with this sense of progress, a general confidence in progress. Now, that's not true for everyone. Right? And last week on Thursday, we talked about people like Freud and Nietzsche, and even artists like Pablo Picasso, who are beginning to see things in a more sort of troubled light, whose work, for example, Freud's work on the human subconscious, suggests that maybe we have deeper urges that are not necessarily limited to our sort of rational pursuit of an enlightened way of living. But those ideas were relatively marginal until the sort of cataclysm of the First World War. And what we sort of focused in on today was the ways in which that war transformed European life. We talked about why it happened and the various contributing factors in the buildup of attitudes of social Darwinism and nationalism and a militaristic spirit. We talked also about the sort of strategic concerns, the Schlieffen Plan, and the problems of mobilization of armies, and how this leads to this rush into the war, especially pulled by this system of alliances. We then all shifted our focus to talk about the consequences of the war and how it destroys the German Empire, humiliates the German people, how it destroys the Russian Empire and produces the Soviet Union, which will be one of the defining powers of the 20th century. We talked especially about how the Treaty of Versailles is a kind of retributive attempt to humiliate the Germans and declare them to have been the ones responsible for the war, and the consequences of that kind of thinking, which are going to reverberate especially when we come next week to World War II, because the link is a very sort of direct one. On Thursday, you'll be exploring sort of the war itself as we watch this documentary film, which unpacks the experience of soldiers fighting on all sides of this conflict. And as you are listening, I would invite you to think especially about what this signifies in terms of people's connection to the nation. How are they developing a new sense, a new attitude towards their relationship with the nation? You'll hear that in the interviews and the narratives of the film, but I'd also invite you to think especially about Wilfred Owen and his poems, which you'll be reading for homework and which we'll have some exposure to again on Thursday. They tell us a lot about sort of the shifting attitudes of this time, and just help us measure just how shattering this war really has been. Looking forward to talking more with you about all of this in the days ahead. Have a good afternoon. I'll talk to you soon.